Hey everybody, my name is Starr Dunigan from AL.com. She has been covering news, so that's what we are bringing for y'all today, the coronavirus pandemic. So before we get started, I do want to say that if you have stories, good, bad, indifferent, please let us know at AL.com. You can let us know on our website. There is a post that has a form you can fill out, or you can tell us on your social media, on our social media channels, or message us. And just any way you want to, just let us get the word out. We want to tell your stories from people in Alabama on the front lines, but we need your help to do that. So let's just get into it, Starr. I know one of the things you said that was really happening around the state were teacher parades, and I know we've seen that across the nation as well.
Yes, so actually the whole teacher parade events that have been going on, they're kind of like twofold. So as parents know, schools have been kind of shut down in a way. Classes are still, they're not going into their classrooms anymore because teachers are more than just teachers. They're also like mentors. They're also like, your backup parents, your counselors, especially when it comes down to like your younger kids. And so basically we have teachers whose families have they haven't been able to say goodbye to them because all of this happened all of a sudden. So with the teachers I talked to down in Baldwin County at Daphne Elementary School, they were telling me how they saw their kids on Thursday. They had a teacher preparation thing they had to do on Friday, so the kids didn't come to school, and then the coronavirus started spreading, and schools slowly started shutting down. And that's really hard for the teachers in what I call the transition grades. So think about your 5th grade teachers that are getting the kids ready for 6th grade, or your 8th grade teachers getting ready to push them into high school. So they are literally handing their kids out into a whole new, area of their lives. They'll be in a whole new building. So with Daphne Elementary, they have a kindergarten through 3rd grade school. So I spoke to a 3rd grade teacher. She said it's very disheartening. And she started to cry, actually, and I almost cried with her, that they're not going to get to see their kids anymore after the school year is over. And they didn't even get to say goodbye to them.
Oh, that's
and then
that's really hard. That's really hard.
It's very hard.
I think about some of the amazing teachers that I had growing up, and I can't imagine if I didn't get to say bye to them. I still remember my preschool teacher, Miss Noblet, and I cannot even imagine if I had to go into kindergarten without saying goodbye to her. I mean, years.
Parades are an example of them because, and this may be something that, us as adults don't think about, is that kids are definitely absorbing the anxieties that we're feeling, and they don't know how to express that. So most kids, based on what the teachers told me, they get their news information from social media. And so if you're spreading misinformation out there, you probably should stop that because you're freaking the kids out, according to the teachers, and they're scared and they don't know what to do. And so basically what the teachers' parades are is that they get in their cars to practice social distancing, y'all. And they don't get out of their cars, and the kids will stand on their porches with their positive signs and saying hello, like, oh, my teacher is the best. And they'll smile and they'll wave, and then they'll have like little positive messages on the boards, the teachers will. And it'll be like, we're here for you. You're not alone. So that they know, they get a sense of normalcy because they are still seeing their kids online. Kind of like those Brady Bunch type of Zoom meetings that you see. So they can see all of their kids digitally, but it's different than hugging them and telling them like you're going to be okay when they have a bad day. So it's kind of more of a mental thing, a mental and spiritual thing for them. The quote that I remember a teacher telling me, her name is Autumn. She's told me that, it shows that we're not isolated. We may be separated. We have to physically distance ourselves, but we don't have to. We can still communicate with each other in other ways, and that's just one of the ways that the teachers did that. And there's been others. I've seen one in Jefferson County. I've seen them in Homewood. I heard that somewhere in Madison that they're probably planning one. And then you have parents who are trying to like pitch them out into the community. I would not be shocked if we see tons of teachers parades, as long as they are all practice social distancing.
Right, and it's such a cool idea, and I'm sure the kids are just over the moon about it, and I know the teachers are too, because like you said, I'm sure that they are really missing those kids, and especially the ones like you said at those grades that are the last grade in a certain school building, and then you have to go to a whole new building and don't get to say goodbye to your favorite teacher. So
No.
that's a great thing for those teachers and for the kids, and I hope that people continue to do those and continue to do them safely, as you said. So another thing, a lot of people, I'm looking down my phone to make sure we're not getting comments or things that we need to address. But one thing I know that you also had talked about were food service workers feeding the community for the servers, the bartenders, people out of work of our local businesses here in town.
Right. So one thing that I appreciate about the food service industry is that even when they're struggling, at least the businesses that are still open, they're still finding ways to feed their community. One of our reporters wrote about Full Moon Barbecue in Montgomery, and they fed like five of them maybe the only meals that they have that day. So to make sure these kids don't go hungry, they'll probably pack up plates. And I mean, I've seen restaurants do this. Of course, there's school systems that do it. Just all over the place. And it's kind of another shout out to the teachers. They do this too, to make sure Alabama children are fed. So another good idea that I saw was that Crestwood Coffee in Birmingham, they created a relief fund. I know, me too. They created a relief fund for service workers. So they've been doing this for about 2 weeks now. And she almost reached her goal of like $4,000, I believe. And so it's basically, the way she said it, feeding the people that feed us.
Right.
Because this is, for some people, a lot of people, these are their careers. We're not just talking about waitresses. And I mean, even the waitresses very much matter. We're also talking about chefs. And we're talking about people who put so much heart and soul into their craft of bartending. You know, the people who are there for us when we need to relax. And now they're in a time where they need us. And so there's so many different in the link of how you can help and where you can find help. Mm-hmm. You can also see different ways where you could donate to your favorite bartender. I also saw something that was really cute where people did like bartender roulette. So they'll just go through the list of bartenders in the virtual tip jar, which is also in that list of how to help. And you can see like different bartenders' names, and it randomly chooses one for you, and you tip that bartender. And so it's just another way of like strangers helping strangers. You may not even know this bartender, but they need you right now.
That's very cool. And you said all that information on how to do is in your story on how to help.
Right. So if you go to like the actual list, it'll say like the name, like Birmingham Virtual Tip Jar. You click that and you'll get all the names of at least the Birmingham area's bartenders and waitresses and things of that nature. And we don't just focus on Birmingham, obviously. There's different sections of the state in there. So, but if you guys see something that's missing, please don't hesitate to email me. But my email is actually in the story itself. So there's different ways, so many diversity of ways to help people right now, especially when it comes down to food.
Right, and that is something that I always love food, so I am so ready to be able to eat at a restaurant, and when all of this social distancing lifts a little bit, to actually get out and have somebody else cook and clean for me. That is such a luxury that I am.
Yes. Oh man, the beautiful thing about Chalky Walk is that it's so simple. Basically, you take sidewalk chalk, all the colors. And I've seen different people do different things with them, leave positive notes, draw positive pictures on their driveways, put different scriptures on their driveways to give, it's kind of like a signal of hope, just this colorful kind of like mural of hope that, you know, everyone can participate in. And I think it kind of highlights how the smallest things really do matter at this time. And to give an example of that, I don't know who is doing this in Huntsville, but I talked to a registered nurse who works at the Women's and Children's Hospital in Huntsville, and she just did a 12-hour shift, and she said her emotions were everywhere because she's a registered nurse, And even though she doesn't consider herself at the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic, she considered herself still at risk because she's in a hospital setting. And once she gets home and before she enters into her house, the first thing she does is that she takes off all her clothes in the garage, she hops into the shower, washes them with antibacterial soap, and then goes into the main part of the house where her grandmother lives, and she has a compromised immune system. So of course you could just imagine all that stress. And then she walks out and she looks down on the ground and she sees all these positive messages written on the sidewalk along. It was like a trail that led from the entrance of that hospital to where they park in the parking garage. And they said a bunch of positive things like, you're a tough team, you matter. They had one where if you're entering or arriving, like, just to let you know that we appreciate for what you do, we appreciate what you have done. And it kind of really uplifted her heart and reminded her to breathe. Her favorite phrase was, "Your smile is more contagious than COVID-19," which I thought was a little clever. And
that is clever. That's much more clever than I am. So,
and the drawings are just fabulous. And so, basically, if you do have a time to thank your healthcare worker, if you bump into one, then just say a kind word to them, because they are dealing with the lot right now, whether or not they're dealing with COVID-19 patients or not. I know that last night, around 8 o'clock in Madison, I heard it was hundreds, a bunch of people, citizens and first responders, came to the hospital, and they basically flashed their lights and honked their horns, and the first responders, so the firefighters and the police officers, were ringing their sirens through the air. It's a way of applauding the hospital staff that was working at Madison Hospital. And I talked to a guy who was actually there. He's not a hospital worker, but he said that if he could do that every night, it still wouldn't be enough, because it was so inspiring to see the community come together again, practicing social distancing, staying in their cars, and applauding the healthcare workers. So again, there's so many simple ways to just show your thanks and show your gratitude to all of those that service, whether it's a healthcare worker or a food service worker. They all matter.
Absolutely. I think that we all are at this stage. Anybody that
Definitely
is going, we appreciate you so much, and we couldn't do it without you.
Right.
Finally, I know one thing that people have been talking about all over the state, and I think people have really registered with it because it makes them feel like they are helping and they can get involved, are face masks. There's been a lot of back and forth about the face masks, if you can make them and donate them, and if hospitals will accept them, things like that. So just to kind of wrap up what we're talking about, give us a update on the face mask situation. Can people make them? Will it help?
I've seen kind of like a patchwork of responses when it came down to the face mask. So when I first started working on the story about 2 weeks ago, or a week ago, all of this really happened over a course of a weekend. All of these Facebook groups started popping up, and I noticed them and I wanted to talk to them, because I was just like, okay, well, I know that this is good-hearted people who wanted to do good-hearted things. And so basically at first the state officials were just like, oh, they're ineffective, so I would not recommend them. UAB told me we're not recommending them either. And so that it went from that to we're allowing some hospital staff. It really depends on the hospital. I've seen some hospital staff being allowed to wear them under like very strict precautions, like don't touch the front of the mask. It's kind of the same precautions you see with the normal surgical mask. If you do have a hand-sewn mask, make sure you are washing and drying it daily. Things of them, a lot of healthcare workers are wearing them on top of their N95 mask to prolong the life of those masks. I know that the Jefferson County Health Department has made it to where you can donate those hand-sewn masks. Huntsville Hospital literally this morning just sent me a whole PDF of instructions for people who want to make hand-sewn masks. And then it's not just the hand sewn mask, it's also people who have 3D printers that are 3D printing face shields and face masks. With those precautions, they've been talking to what is called the medical supply chain administrators of those hospitals to get those parameters of those face shields and face masks approved before they print them. And the reason why all of this is a big deal, and I'm pretty sure everyone has kind of heard of it, is that there's a national shortage of what we say is PPE, which is basically your mask, your gloves, and things like that. And so I actually talked to a supply chain, or someone who used to work in the supply chain area in UAB, who's actually helping with the 3D printing effort. And he said, what we're basically seeing is that we have a complete surge of demand and not enough supply. And so when you see these big, huge epicenters of coronavirus going on in bigger cities like New York, they need more supplies. And so basically what I've seen is that clinics that don't have to deal with COVID patients face to face, I've seen their pictures of like them posing with the face masks, and they're different colors, of course. And it's like a patchwork of like the community coming together. So to kind of put a nice little bow on this is, if you are hand sewing the face mask, just check with the hospital first, see if they want it done a certain way. I've seen people make face masks with pockets in them, and basically they'll take the pocket, you could put a filter in it, and different types of filters to try to prevent that. And so once you kind of go through that hospital or whoever you're giving it to, they will give you the parameters of what they're looking for.
So, yeah, like you said, takeaway is if you want to help and you want to make masks, then check with the facility that you want to donate to before you spend that time making them, because you might have a certain specification or you might have a certain thing that you have to do for that specific facility.
Right.
So, Starr, we thank you so much for telling us some of the good things that are happening and the way that our communities are coming together. Again, I know you have all these ways to help in a story of yours that we will put here in the comments for anybody that is